Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the mental storm coming in our transition from February to March 2024. And it's all having to do with Mercury and a whole bunch of drama coming his way. These energy shifts are meant for you to be able to put on your calendar, hey, look out for this, and to be able to shift appropriately to be able to surf the different energies. So welcome to energy shift number 3. And here is our playbook. We are looking at when. Let me zoom in here. When? Well, the height of this energy shift, this period, is we actually have a window. And the height of it is going to be a very special event that you're going to learn here in a few minutes on February 28th, 2024 at 9:05 a.m. We're going to have Sun, Mercury, and Saturn all together in the same bit of sky in Pisces. But this window, the energy that this will represent is going to be apparent all the way from 2/23 or February 23rd to just before the next new moon. The new moon in Pisces, actually. And so it has a lot to do with Mercury because Mercury is transitioning on the 23rd out of Aquarius and into Pisces. And as soon as he does, he gets a face full of Saturn. All right. So that's our... Oh, what did I do here? I just hit a button I shouldn't have hit. Hold on. All right, got it back. All right, so here's our overview. We have a triple threat to Mercury, and I'm going to describe those here. Number one, remember in Aquarius, Mercury is in an exalted state, so extra strong, extra clear, best memory around the zodiac. And then jumps into the waters of Pisces and all of a sudden is in detriment. So now he's actually weakened. It's hard to remember things. It's brain fog. It's harder to travel. It's hard to walk in water. It just is. And same with thinking. It's hard to think in water. So that's only one. So we go from an exalted state to a detriment. Number 2. And that's on the 23rd, by the way. And then right as soon as he enters into Pisces, he's just within minutes of starting a conjunction with Saturn. And it's not just a conjunction, it's also parallel, meaning that they're in the same inclination, which intensifies this. And we're going to delineate that. But that's not all. Third, Mercury is combust, meaning it's within a conjunction of the sun. And because they're not inclinated the same, we're going to actually miss the cazimi because it's going to be outside of that 17 minutes. And so what that means is Mercury is extra weakened by not getting to that cazimi state. Now, I know not all astrologers agree with the inclination part of that cazimi. They only look at the azimuth, and that's fine. But here in these surf reports, we do look at the inclination quite in depth because it does add another whole dimension to these alignments. So the triple threat to Mercury is going into detriment, jumping into the Pisces waters, and then immediately conjunct and parallel with Saturn. And so that's just limitation, struggle, and challenges for Mercury. And then all the while also combust with the sun. And so weakened even more, kind of burnt out by the sun. So, man, those 3 are all huge hits to Mercury. So what we're looking at is a big storm for the mental, right? And the mental plane, very difficult. Now I'm going to get into some more technical details here that I think some of you might find interesting. This chart on the 28th is when Mercury and Saturn go exact. They're at 9 degrees, 45 minutes of Pisces. And you can see that they make this conjunction with only 13, 14 degrees, minutes away from the sun. So we're well within a degree. And so really all three of those hit a very tight conjunction on top of each other in Pisces all at the same time. That timing is here at 9:05 a.m. Mercury and Saturn are going to make that conjunction perfect. And that's what this chart is for. We've charted for the February 28th, 2024 at 9:05 a.m. Central Standard Time. Then later in the day, that's at 3:22 to 3:45, then the sun will make its conjunction with Saturn. So all day, Saturn is in between all of these. Mercury's got the triple threat going on, but that's not the only thing happening. As you're going to see here in the chart here in a second, Venus and Mars are going to do that square to Uranus. Now, if you go look at episode 2, we talk about the sparks and the lightnings and that kind of distant storm up in the air. So lightning from the passion of Venus and Mars, that's still happening, and it's a square to Uranus. So there's electrical sparks all over the place. And that's happening at this time. So that's what you see with the red squares here. So Mars and Venus are still in Aquarius at this time. Again, the 28th of February. And starting a square over to Uranus. Uranus being the ruler of Aquarius and in a holding pattern or squared off position from home. And so that denotes a lot of rebelliousness, a lot of conflict, a lot of tension in the air, but specifically around everything Aquarian, really, Aquarian and Uranus. So freedom, liberty, maybe friendships, maybe technology, innovation. So those sparks might be cutting some connections out, if you will. All right. So overall, this energy window goes from February 23rd to the 9th of March. So a couple of weeks, and it's right before the Piscean new moon. So now what we look at is, how does this affect us? I do want to kind of point out and give you a little orientation around the alignments that we have. The main ones are all these three players, Sun, Mercury, and Saturn, at 9 degrees, and even tighter than that in Pisces, the end of February, day before leap year. And then in the background, we've got that Venus, Mars. They're 3 degrees away from each other and opening because Venus is a slightly faster planet, and they're squared over to Uranus, making that technological lightning, electricity kind of a tension in the air. So what does this all feel like in that whole period of time? What I do need to add, I didn't want to put a bunch of charts out here. This is the biggest one. This is the climax. And then this energy that I'm about ready to delineate for you actually continues on March 8th as Mercury and Neptune become conjunct and parallel. So Mercury is still in detriment. It's still in combust. And it's still, now it's not conjoined with Saturn, it's conjoined with Neptune. So planet of dreaminess and maybe escapism and maybe intuition, oneness. But nonetheless, Mercury is very opposed to these dreams and altered images and fantasy from Neptune because it doesn't make a lot of sense. So that's going to throw Mercury off, is already in a weakened state. And then Sun exits the Saturn conjunction on 3/8. So all that kind of falls apart right before the new moon. All right. Now with this chart showing, I'm going to zoom in and show The primary area and the climax of this whole period is on the 28th, and it could be called the sea within. And actually, I'd like to go to my second picture as I describe this, because this is the picture. If you don't get this right during this period, it's going to feel like the sea within. When Mercury's enthusiasm is stifled by Saturn's restraint, it can feel like a stormy sea rages within the mind. And thoughts and ideas, if you can imagine ships in this, just clashing, crashing, drowning in Saturn's unyielding shore, unable to form anything concrete. Can also be, imagine jumping into these deep, dark waters on a stormy night, or just a night in general, very dark down in there, dark anyway, even if it's in the daylight. And so it's a filtered lens. The sun's vitality is dimmed by Mercury and Saturn's sobering influence. Vision and drive are weighed down as if viewing the world through a gloomy filter. And that's the brain fog is going to be predominant here. Opportunities that would normally spark passion seem vague and blurred. Again, everything harder to do from Mercury's side. So thinking, communicating, traveling are the main ones. Learning, mediating, all those very difficult. I wouldn't be mediating anything. Now, what are most people going to be, or some people going to be feeling during this period? Again, this is February 23rd to March 9th, 2024. Overthinking leads to analysis paralysis. Communication feels sluggish and obstacles block understanding. Depression or low mood dampens the spirit. Some of us are going to have these health issues arise related to mind, communication. Maybe the anxiety starts affecting the digestion tract. That's very common to have an increase in anxiety when you're having problems with maybe negative thinking. Difficulty maintaining focus or motivation on tasks. Doubt, self-doubt, doubt in trusting anything, hard to trust, deep doubts creep in more easily around abilities and self-worth, rigid or pessimistic mental patterns that are actually reinforced during this time, because when your mind thinks it knows something, the subconscious is going to be looking for validation out there, and there will be things there to validate it. So now let's go back to more of suggestion. So is there anything that we can do when we're during this period, because it's going to be stormy in this picture? It recognizes that there is that storm on the outside. The water is, I thought I had water in this picture. I don't. So imagine there's water out here and it's in turmoil. It's not peaceful. Everything in the environment in this picture, in both pictures, are in turmoil, but you don't have to be party to it. So that's kind of the picture. The picture here is to be the intuitive philosopher. So quite rapidly on to the 23rd of February, the energy shifts to an almost eerie calm. So imagine putting yourself in this position here and how it almost feels like these lightnings, almost you can feel it. You can feel your hair standing on end. And so it's like, it's here. It feels like it's right there. Okay, so let's just read this now. It's unsettling because the sparks and lightning are off in the distance, i.e. very mental. And those are with Venus and Mars square Uranus, but also the triple threat to Mercury. But so convincing that they feel close and threatening. And that's how the mind works. Where mind goes, body follows. So if your mind is interpreting storm and all these challenges and everything, I can't do anything, and the self-worth problems, maybe depression, your body, and you don't know you're doing it, your body's going to have to go through that turmoil and suffer. So the double-edged sword appears and the choice becomes evident. Sit quietly attuned to the gifts of the intuitive body, or be completely overtaken by the overactive and catastrophizing mind. In other words, get out of your head during this period. It's very important. Now, it doesn't mean drug yourself and, don't, be blacked out. That's not what we're talking about. Instead, be still and pause. Slow down. All is divine. Quote, I trust in my celestial and ordained path. And that includes outside events that seem to happen to me without my control. Sit quietly, and the transcendent gifts will come through your consciousness. Do not allow mind to create your reality at this time. Don't automatically believe anything the mind says during this period. That's a long while. It's at least 2 weeks of not trusting your mind. In fact, in general, for most of us, for most of the time, I wouldn't believe what the mind says. But this has to be practiced in order to be achieved to a high percentage. Relax and find the quiet space within. Tune into your breath and stay there. The transcendent Piscean waters are providing you solace, oneness, and guidance. Saturn will sound harsh, but his wisdom is profound. The rational isn't reliable during this period. Pessimism is reinforced by the ego. Stay attuned or get Stay attuned or get tossed about in the mind. All right, so this is a very apropos picture, but if you can stay in a very mindful place, it doesn't matter where your mind goes as long as you're aware that it's going there, and then you can decide to either honor it or not. But if you're not aware of what your mind is thinking, you're going to be tossed about in this storm. So I would start practicing now. It's kind of the part why we put these more in advance, is to give you some time to practice. This is a very difficult skill for most of us in the Western world because we're always distracted, especially smartphones are distracting us. Maybe sleep deprivation is helping us be distracted and increasing our anxiety, lack of focus. So get good sleep, and you will have a big gift throughout this time period, and it's very Piscean. We will also have, obviously, the Pisces new moon is around the time when Mercury leaves, and so we get our minds back. We get a good, at least an average amount of mental acuity once Mercury leaves Pisces, and that happens around the Pisces new moon. But until then, we have a strong water signature back here, and fixed. It's fixed water, but it's not all that dominant because the air is still prominent. You've got the big passion play, which is Venus and Mars, and Pluto are not just sitting here together. That's alone enough, but you've got this square over here, so it's not a water dominant environment really until we get into the new moon towards the end of Pisces, when the sun hits I don't remember how far into Pisces, but anyway, there you have it. There's your energy shift number 3. The period of time is from February 23rd to March 9th, 2024. Watch out for the storm. And remember, even if you forget and you start getting sort of anxious and your mind start going to catastrophizing mode, as long as you're aware there, then you can come back and get down out of your body, get into your breath, get into your heart, do meditation, anything to not succumb to the scary possible times that are going on in the mind, and maybe the sense of weakness there. All right, everybody, you guys rock. And here in a couple of days, another surf report's coming out. So we'll see you on Wednesdays. Cheers.